No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Any disclosures of personal or prejudicial interests? I must declare that the Reverend is known to me in my capacity as a councillor, and it's not a personal and certainly not a prejudicial interest. But I thought I should declare it so that it's open. Okay, so now my name is Councillor Penny Matthews. I'll be chairing today. On my left is...
You've got my name.
No, not
Yeah, Councillor in Forest this committee.
I'm Councillor Matthew Bailey, representing the Clydach ward.
On my right, extreme right, we have our officer.
Good morning, all. My name is Samantha Woon. I'm Democratic Services Officer.
A new officer who's sitting in this morning. Would you like to give your name, please?
My name is Vicky. I'm actually an admin assistant for licensing. I'm just here to observe the condition.
Thank you.
I'm Lindsay Stock and I'll be presenting the report, and I work for licensing.
Good morning, my name is Rachel Loosemore. I'm a licensing officer with the licensing team.
Good morning, I'm Yvonne Lewis. I'm the team leader for licensing.
There we are. I'm great at technology. Sorry about that. I'm the Reverend Canon Christopher. I'm the vicar of St Peter's Church and the chairman of the trustees of Newton Village Hall. And do you want to, beside me is my partner, Liz Thomas.
Hello, my name's Alan Hodges. I live at number 25 Castle Road, alongside the church hall.
It's a bit confusing.
Yeah.
And not the green.
Sorry about that. My name is Philip Reason. I live in 27 Castle Road. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll be observing today only. Councillor Will Thomas, Mumbles Ward.
And last but not least, I'm Aled Griffith. I'm the legal advisor to the committee. Certainly. There's a specific running order that needs to be adhered to in respect of the committee procedure. The first step has already been undertaken, which is basically that the chair will open the meeting and that parties will introduce themselves. There's also been the declaration of interest. Following this, the chair will ask the licensing officer to present the report. And at the conclusion of that, members of the committee will be invited to ask any relevant questions of the licensing officer. After that, representations can be made by the persons making relevant representations, where they have the opportunity to amplify on the representations that they've submitted. And at that point, then the chair will invite members of the committee to ask questions of each relevant representation, should they wish to do so. And then after that, the applicant will have the opportunity to present their application. At that point, members of the committee can ask questions of the applicant. And then after that, any party can ask questions of each other. Once that has been completed, then the applicant will have the opportunity to close their application by summarising any key points, and then the committee will go into closed session to make their determination. I'd just like to say as well, there is one preliminary issue that needs deciding before proceeding to the application itself, and that is the decision surrounding the compliance with the advertising requirements of the Act. It may be sensible that this is dealt with as a preliminary issue rather than the as part of the hearing, because the determination on that could determine whether the application proceeds. So it might be best to deal with that matter first.
Thank you, Chair. As Aled has outlined, members, there's a preliminary issue to address prior to the start of the agenda item in relation to Newton Village Hall. A number of inquiries were made to the licensing authority regarding the positioning of the advertisement notices required to be displayed in relation to the application. As you'll be aware, the requirements placed upon the applicant when applying for a premises licence are that a notice must be displayed prominently at or on the premises to which the application relates for a period of no less than 28 consecutive days. Consultation period starting on the day following the day on which the application was submitted. And a notice must appear in a local newspaper within 10 working days of making the application. And this appeared in the public notice section of the Evening Post on the 22nd of April 2022. And in addition, a notice must appear on the council's website outlining the application, and this was posted on the 8th of April 2022. The inquiries received are in relation to the first point, where the notice must be displayed prominently at or on the premises, and the actual wording of the requirement in the legislation states, a notice must be displayed prominently at or on the premises to which the application relates, where it can be conveniently read from the exterior of the premises. And in the case of a premises covering an area of more than 50 metres square, a further notice in the same form and subject to the same requirements every 50 metres along the external perimeter of the premises abutting any highway, for a period of no less than 28 consecutive days, consultation period starting on the day following the day on which the application was submitted. Concern has been raised in line with the written representation made by Mr. Reason at Appendix D1 on page 33 to this report, and Mr. Hodges at Appendix D6 on page 38 to this report. And that is, local residents have not been given a fair opportunity to object to this application. There are no notice of application signs on any of the lampposts around the church or village hall, on the church or village hall notice boards, or on the main entrance to the hall. It clearly states that notices should be placed every 50 metres on the external perimeter of the premises abutting any highway. This is clearly not the case. We have dated photographic evidence to back this up, where all lampposts and notice boards have this week been photographed with no such notices. Should this now void the application, as notices have not been displayed for 28 consecutive days from the day after April the 8th? Consequently, more time should be given to residents to lodge their objections. Perhaps a residents' meeting organised with the applicants would have been a good idea, so that worries and concerns could be discussed prior to applying. This is not a business after all, but a village hall. I can confirm to members that the application for Newton Village Hall was submitted by the applicant on the 8th of April 2022. A notice was placed in the window of Pop-Up Coffee, which is part of Newton Village Hall, on the 8th of April 2022. The location of this notice could be conveniently read from the exterior of the premises. Any person walking past the premises will pass the window the notice was placed from the highway known as Caswell Road. As is the case when locating a notice on a premises, it would be reasonable to move closer to the notice to read the detail, which can be achieved by walking a few steps from the actual highway with no obstruction. The applicant placed an additional notice on the parish of Newton St Peter's board, the main entrance to the church, which could be clearly seen from the highway, also via car and on foot. The premises itself is more than 50 metres square, and therefore the requirement to place a further notice in the same form and subject to the same requirements every 50 metres along the external perimeter of the premises abutting any highway is relevant. The only highway this premises abuts is Caswell Road. All other sides of the premises are either surrounded by boundary walls to houses or bushes and an open car park attached to the church. The perimeter of the premises at the highway is a low wall and hedge, save for the entrance point directly in front of the window the notice was placed. Photographic evidence was submitted by the applicant via email confirming that both notices were in place a day before they were required to be displayed, and I can confirm that officers have visited the premises to check the notices. The notices stated that any representations must be made in writing, clearly stating the grounds upon which the representation is made, relevant to the licensing objectives, to the licensing authority for the deadline of the 6th of May 2022. 6 relevant representations have been received in relation to the application within those statutory timescales. 8 further inquiries were made in relation to the application prior to the deadline of the 6th of May, but did not result in a representation being submitted. In view of these facts, members, the Licensing Authority is satisfied that the statutory requirements of the Licensing Act 2003 advertising process have been met to allow the hearing scheduled for today to proceed. Chair.
It might be prudent at this stage to allow the representatives to offer their views on this subject so that the members can have their views. And then perhaps after that, then we'll maybe go into a small recess for you to make your decision as to whether you wish to hear the hearing today on the basis that the advertising requirements have been met, or whether you wish to adjourn to allow the process to be restarted.
Yeah, hi. Once again, my name's Philip Reason, and that was my view on this. Basically, I was a community councillor at the time this application was put in, and I wasn't aware that the application was put in. I only found out a few days before the end of the application that the 28-day notice period. I'm not a community councillor, I didn't stand again, but I was then, so I was quite tuned in to the local residents, if you like. I found out about 5 days to go before the application period ended, so I thought, well, I'll just nip down to the church. I've missed it. I walk through every day. I see the good vicar say hello some days, and I walk through the church, and I hadn't seen anything. So I thought, that's strange, because we think if they were applying for something of this magnanimity in a village hall, it would be advertised. So I went down. There was nothing on either highway surrounding the church. Nothing on the lampposts, nothing on the walls where the pop-up coffee shop is advertised, where they advertise there. I photographed the lampposts to prove that there was nothing on there. And then I went to the village hall notice boards. There was nothing on the front door and nothing in the notice boards. Again, I photographed that and I've sent that in on that date. I think it was May the 3rd. So then I backed off. I thought, okay, how do I know about this? Okay, it possibly was an Evening Post fine. So then I was told about this by my next door neighbour, Mr. Hodges. He'd heard from somebody who'd heard, word of mouth or whatever. So then Mr. Hodges went out and spoke to local residents who he'd never met before in the roads, and none of them had heard of it. My point being is that if you've got a village hall and you've got notice boards outside a church hall, a church and a village hall, wouldn't you put the notices in the notice boards, not on a side door? Wouldn't you put them on the lampposts abutting it? And if you like, that became a point of principle for me, because I think, well, it's the community use the hall. Surely the community should know about it. Look, you can tick boxes when you do these things. You can say, look, I'm going to apply for a license. I'm going to do it the minimum amount I have to. Okay. But in this case, I don't think there was even a minimum amount, because I've proved it wasn't on any lampposts, it wasn't on any walls, and it wasn't on any notice boards that are relevant. Why wouldn't you put other notice boards on the coffee shop side door? It's the only notice there. All the other notice boards are in the notice boards. There's plenty of space in the notice boards to put the notice in, because again, my photograph proves there's just blank spaces in there. So doesn't that tell you something, that we weren't supposed to know about it? I don't understand that, why it wasn't advertised in a sense that we could see it. And that's my point.
I would. You want to turn that off? Yeah. Hello, my name's Alan Hodges. I live at number 25. As regarding the notices being put up, I noticed the lady over there, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, said that if you walk up to the coffee shop, I don't go to the coffee shop. So how would I know that? How would anybody who's not going to the coffee shop see it in the window? As Mr. Reason says, why wouldn't you put it in the notice board? The other thing is, there's no way, apparently, there's walls surrounding that church, and I'm told, I just heard there's no way to put the notices up. Yet they managed to put coffee shop notices and big stickers and signs up everywhere else. Why can't you put this up? And the one sign that is up is on a piece of A4 paper, which is their legal requirement. But as I stand, it's that high. So I don't know who's going to walk around looking up that high, because it's on the church board where it says All Saints or St. Peter's Church rather. So, you know, as regards advertising, 5 years ago, they made an attempt to get an alcohol license then, and there was such a backlash that they just said they wouldn't do it. And that's why this has just been tried to sent through without any questions. And of course, it wasn't until a gentleman walking his dog said to my wife, an old gentleman who happened to read the Evening Post in the back, the Evening Post, there it is, buried in the back, the advert. I went round to the village hall, and nobody could even tell me there if a license had been applied for. Nobody told me, and I was asking them. I went round the vicarage to speak to the vicar, couldn't get hold of the vicar. This is just, you know, these are legal things that we should be following. We can't just ignore this stuff and say, well, it doesn't matter, they did their best. You know, people need to know. This is the quality of our lives around there on the line. That's, I'm not going to go on, because I will go on and on and on. Sorry.
The applicant want to say anything in respect to that?
Yes, certainly I would. I'm sure that the two gentlemen and other people would be jumping up and down with glee if it had been said that we hadn't advertised according to the law. We did advertise according to the letter of the law. The gentlemen concerned obviously are unaware of the fact that if you would like to make out that it wasn't known about, this is something that's gone through a meeting of the Parochial Church Council. I'm here actually representing 17 local residents. It has certainly been spoken about in Newton, because people have spoken about it to me. To make out that no one knew, well, I'm sorry, it's a great shame that Mr. Hodges doesn't use the local cafe and support the village hall, but that's his choice. If you look at the plan of the hall, it only actually does abut the highway for a very short period of time. As you go around the perimeter on the large notice board that advertises the services of the church, that's where I also, in conjunction, and throughout this, I've followed the very helpful and supportive advice, because I've never done this before, of the licensing officers. There is a sign there. People have spoken to me about it. I've spoken to other people, and for all the fact, I know quite a lot of people who are very keen on the idea. Also, to get a couple of things. Can I
stop you there a second? Can we restrict the submissions at this point to the advertising? You will have the opportunity to discuss support at that if the matter proceeds to the hearing.
Okay. It was stated that Mr. Hodges had tried to speak to some people at the village hall. I think it's a good point here, Chair, to bring forward the fact that that was done at night when it was fairly dark. I could easily come with 3 complaints and the complaint of the choir master of the Mumbles a cappella choir that 3 lady members, one of them 17 years old, was had Mr. Hodges go on to them about this. They were concerned. Equally, he then arrived at the vicarage. I was away. I was attending a funeral of a friend. I was staying in Devon, and the funeral was the next day, I believe the 22nd. Fortunately for him, he did meet someone in the vicarage. He didn't know who it was. He presumed it was the vicar, but it was actually my 27-year-old son, who is 6'4", and even he wasn't particularly happy at having someone come and bang on my home well after 9 o'clock when it was dark. So, I think Well, I'll leave that as it stands. We have advertised it as it's meant to be advertised, and I've spoken about it in church. People know it's happening, and we've made no attempt to hide the fact. In relation to an application 5 years ago, I've been vicar for 5 years in September. There was an interregnum of nearly a year before that. I really do not think there was an application made for an alcohol licence 5 years ago. And in fact, I'm not sure there's ever been one made. I can't say that for certain, but if I had to stake my life on it, I would.
But I just have the right to reply there because he's made some pretty serious accusations.
Well,
only if it's in relation to the issue regarding the advertising. I appreciate that. I don't think we need to go into tit for tat on who said what to whom at what point. But if there's anything that you wish to clear, then it might be best that we do so now, so that we can manage that process.
Yeah, as regarding, this isn't tit for tat, going around there at 9 o'clock at night, I noticed that they're looking to serve alcohol till 10:30 and closing at 11. So I don't see what his objection is for me going round to his house at 9 o'clock at night. Just a point I'm wanting to make. Thank you.
Can I make a point? I'm sorry. Can I make a point? Yeah. I've produced evidence to show that the notices weren't on the notice boards, and they weren't on any of the highways or a highway abutting the village hall. And I don't see how this can proceed on that basis, that it hasn't been adhered to, and I've proved it hasn't been adhered to. You know, we can say what we like, but I've proved it. There was nothing on the notice boards as per the photographs. There's nothing on the lamppost on the abutting highway. So if this were to go ahead, it would be on the basis that my evidence is not taken into consideration. I'm sorry, but that's my point.
That's okay. There seems to be photographs showing where they aren't, and there's photographs showing where they are. And I think it's for the committee to determine whether where they are is in compliance with the Act. I don't think anyone would say that your evidence is not accepted. The question is whether or not where the advertising requirements have been placed are in compliance or substantially compliant with the regulations.
Yeah, the point I would make on that is that it's got to be 28 consecutive days, and clearly in my photographs there is nothing on those days.
We'll deal with. Actually, do you want to state the evidence that you've got to show where yours are? Would that make sense?
I can confirm that where we've stated it was in the pop-up coffee in the same position, and that's where the officers have seen that notice in that position, and that is what we deem satisfied the requirements of the legislation.
Chair, do you want to ascertain where as well, on what date the advert was placed on the St. Peter's board?
And was it put on the coffee shop? It wasn't put on the notice board, was it? It was on the coffee shop window. And are you confirming that it was there for 28 days?
Chair, there's no requirement in the legislation for an officer to check every day. We had email evidence submitted, as I read out earlier, to say that the applicant submitted an email a day before the notices were required to be in position. showing us photographic evidence of them being in place there. And as I've also stated, an officer has made sure that they've remained in place during that time. Not every day, as we're not deemed to do, but they have been in place, and we have received inquiries as a result of them being in place.
Can I check the just so the committee can consider this properly? There's as well as the board, as well as the coffee shop window, you mentioned that there was a notice placed elsewhere. When was that notice put up?
That notice, we had confirmation again from the same email the day before the requirement. It was on there. That's an additional notice that obviously the applicant chose to erect, and it was on the main board that you could see from the highway. But that was the day before, so, and it remained in place actually after the 6th of May because officers have been since also.
Still there now.
Nobody can see it. It's in the air.
Sorry, if I could just say that my photographs prove that there's nothing in the notice boards, and also there's nothing on the abutting highway.
I think we're confusing notice boards and parish boards.
I took the parish board as well, the church board as well. As you enter the church, there's nothing in there, nothing on the door, nothing in the main notice board. My point is just simply is if you wanted to notify people of something, wouldn't you put it in the notice boards? And also the issue of the abutting highway, I've got no evidence. I can see no evidence of anything ever being on any lamppost abutting a highway. The point I'm trying to make is respectful. And it's just that I'm coming at it from a slightly different angle. I don't know personalities in this. All I know is that residents I spoke to as a local council didn't know about it. So that's why I looked at why they didn't know about it. They didn't know about it because it wasn't clearly advertised. And that's my point. I'm sorry.
Or to even this out, we have actually got an objection from someone who says that the notice was posted, but the person is actually objecting to it. So clearly somebody is saying it. I think so, yeah. I think so, please, yes. Okay.
For the committee to deliberate, can the applicant, the representatives and all observers leave the court chamber, and then once a decision's been made on this point, everyone will be brought back in and the decision will be communicated, and we'll then determine whether we go on to hear the remainder of the application or whether it's adjourned to another day.